It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Now, you can get a hold of me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Now, otherwise, if you need to get a hold of me about the show, it's oppermanreport@gmail.com. And if you like our show, check it out the Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. Our guest today is Mr. Clayton, and he goes by Clayton CFS 333. And he's an artist, and he's an archaeologist. I think we said a sociologist. We were saying I met him through Barrett Brown and Rocco Caserto, and they both rave about this guy. He's got a million stories. I don't know if that's a good recommendation or not, but you can get a hold of him. And one thing we need to do with our buddy here, Clayton, is he's got a GoFundMe. He's down there in Mexico. He's trying to, I guess, start a revolution or whatever you might want to call it. And his GoFundMe.
Ice cream revolution.
Nice. And this guy, we know a lot of the same people. We've only been talking for 5 minutes. We knew two of the same guys. The GoFundMe, you can't miss it. It's called the Great DEF CON Ice Cream Social Initiative of 2026. And he's not trying to raise that much money. So, you can help him out down in Tijuana. He is down there, my old stomping grounds. Mr. Clayton, CFS 333, are you there?
And here.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Before we get into all this crazy stuff, tell us about yourself. Who is Clayton? And then you go by the name CFS333. It's actually your hacker name, right?
It started as a ham handle, but it just became, part of my persona, and I use it to sign my artwork. So, yeah.
Well, tell us about yourself.
Oh, man, I've been everything from crab fisherman up in Alaska to bouncer, bartender, chef on Bourbon Street and the greater New Orleans area. I've been everywhere, man. Across the mountains, travel I've had my share.
And then how'd you wind up down there in Tijuana?
Well, that was more or less a life hack, when you only make so much money. I can't stand living with roommates. So it's a big no-no for me. And it's hard to do that in the United States when you're poor. So living down in Mexico, I've been able to afford a pretty decent-sized compound. And it's like 1,500 square feet, and it's a warehouse. It's perfect. It's an art studio / hopefully soon to be eventually barbecue pit all around, place you ought to be. Well, for me anyway. That's about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you just post something about this, that you're working on this barbecue thing?
Well, yeah. I mean, the ice cream is, if I can start my little ice cream business, now that I've lived here in one place, one of the stipulations for starting a business as an immigrant into Mexico, it's virtually the same as the United States. You have to live there for a certain amount of time and then, gradually assimilate into the culture. And so that's what I'm just in the process of doing right now. And so now that I've lived here for 5 years, I can run a business and I have space for it. It's just, it's the time money differential that keeps me in like a merry-go-round where, it's hard to get to the next rung just because, your resources are outsourced to all the various things that it keeps holding this place together. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Now, I often, I've had a colorful life myself, okay? And I often think of leaving the United States because it's getting really bad here. In fact, I just played a repeat called It's Time to Go, which was a story I told about my grandfather who escaped Nazi Germany using he got an Irish passport, a stolen Irish, not stolen, but like a forged Irish passport to escape Nazi Germany when he saw things turning there. But now, so I think it's time to go here, in some ways, or time to stay and fight. Yep.
Are you familiar with Bertolt Brecht?
No.
He was a famous playwright and anti-fascist dissident of Germany in the Weimar Republic, and He actually exiled to Southern California, and that's who on my Twitter handle, Change Recruit, is. It's not actually me. It's a picture of Bertolt Brecht, and he's sort of like a anti-fascist hero of mine because, man, we're living in the same times as the 30s right now.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same playbook, just different characters, and the same. It's the same thing as it was before in the prior run-up to World War II. They're using all the same tricks, but here's the thing, man. All the really good illusionists have died off. I mean, there's still a few, David Copperfield for one. And things that we see in this world are illusory by nature simply because there is a faction of people on this planet who make it their duty and business, literally their business, to make things seem as how they are not.
Well, let me ask you this, because I remember, for the listeners who've been listening a long time, when I used to have that commercial for the New World of Mexican Women, and I had their friend, I think Carlos Mota, was down there, and he was talking about those Mexican students that got kidnapped and buried alive down there. And one of the things he said to me was, he goes, we may be coming up there to save you, to rescue you, in your struggles against the oppression and fascism. So my question for you, Clayton, is for someone like me, I think we're on the same team there. Should I stay here and fight, or should I leave and maybe recruit down there to come back? You know what I mean? Should I stay here, not to fight, but stay here and resist?
Ice cream revolutionaries need a faction, so if you ever want to come down, you're more than welcome.
Okay, occasionally I do need a safe place.
Great food, and relatively cheap living. There's a small subset of expats that live down here, and your friend that you talked to, he's absolutely correct. And coincidentally enough, I happen to live in a place called Ejido Francisco Villa, which is Pancho Villa's name.
Now, are you down there? I know Barrett Brown moved down there too. Are you nearby him?
Yeah. He's on the mainland. I'm in the Baja Peninsula.
Gotcha. So I met you through Barrett Brown and Rocco Caserto. How did you hook up with those guys? I'm assuming through this. What do you call it? The hacker community?
We've been in the same orbit since nigh on 2008, 2010-ish. It all stems from Occupy and all of that. And satire. Satire is the number one weapon against fascism simply because, well, take, for instance, supremacy. So any kind of supremacy, mostly white supremacy. So white supremacy is racism. Racism is simply narcissism. It's just its own very unique, special brand of narcissism. But it's narcissism nonetheless.
And then would you describe yourself as an anarchist, a socialist, a communist? What would you describe yourself?
None of the above. I mean, I think we get caught up in all of these identifiers and characterizations, and I'm an asymmetricalist.
Okay.
Maybe the only asymmetricalist on the planet, but whatever angle somebody expects from me, I'm going to give them what they deserve.
Well, like a party of one.
And that's just a natural defense that I've built up over time against these narcissistic, sociopathic fucking vampires. Oh, excuse me. Narcissistic, sociopathic vampires. People that like to just suck the life out of you and use you as an amusement and throw you away.
So then you would describe yourself
Those people are what's wrong with this planet.
You describe yourself then as a party of one, like Groucho Marx used to say. Any group that would want me as a member.
I love Groucho. I love Groucho. He's actually one of my early influences. I used to watch the Marx Brothers all the time.
Well, there you go. See, so I'm a Marxist and you're a Groucho Marxist.
Okay, well, there you go. Satire. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I grew up with the hippies in New York City, and they were into all that stuff. The pie man, hitting with people with pies and stuff, and then street festivals and art and performance artists and stuff like that.
During Occupy, it was Americans for Inequality was the satire group we had there in Zuccotti Park. You dress up like Wall Streeters and throw fake money around and just have a good little time. But I was also helping make mesh nets at the same time. So
and
pulling double duties, triple and quadruple duties even.
And what is that? What are mesh nets?
Because we were feeding people. Because we were feeding people too.
And so mesh nets are meals, food?
Mesh nets is a mesh net node is internet. Homebrew internet, basically. You have to have a server, and then you have nodes that branch out. And so if one node fails, it reroutes around to the other next available node. It's a networking protocol for homebrew internet, and it's basically internet out of thin air.
So, so you were basically creating communication systems for the Occupy.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Then, looking back at Occupy, what do you think, man? Was the whole thing co-opted? Was it all a bunch of agents? Was it failed from the start? What do you make of it?
It was the same kind of operation that the Summer of Love was, just a different era. So.
Can you elaborate?
Whether it was astroturfed or organic, that depends on who you talk to.
Well, since I'm talking to you, what do you think? What is your take on this?
I'm going to leave that.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that and go next question.
Yeah. Well, did you experience any connections between...
Just simply because it's such a bygone era now. It was like almost 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I know. Time flies, man. You know,
the advancement of everything that was set into the motion back then, now it's basically chickens coming home to roost, to quote Michael Beck's.
Right, and you were living in New York City during Occupy, like living there in the streets and in the camps?
I was there, mostly living in New Jersey, but taking the train over and hopping the turnstiles. But yeah.
Gotcha. Then what is your take then on the DSA takeover of New York City politics and Mamdani and all this stuff? Are you encouraged by this? What do you think?
You know, I'm going to reserve that for somebody who has, because, you know, I don't really have any opinion on that just because I'm simply not involved in New York politics. So I'm not going to even dip my toe into that.
And what do the old time Occupy people? How do you think they would react to this? Would they be positive? Because it seems to be. I just came back from New York. It's super energized over there right now.
Like I said, I don't know, man. I can't generalize or speak on anything that I really have no knowledge thereof. Gotcha. So you know, I'm not gonna, let my alligator mouth overrun my jaybird butt.
Well, now, the way you and I met, okay, is I had Barrett Brown on, then I had Rocco Caserto on, and there was a lot of activity suddenly on my Twitter page. In fact, I even left that little conversation. I unfollowed that little group, that little thread there, because it was just going on in all different kind of crazy directions. So how did you hook up with these guys, and what do you make of all the controversies? They seem to be involved in a lot of abrasive battles with other folks in that community there, right?
Say that again.
It seems that both Barrett and Rocco are at war with a lot of folks that they feel are feds and agents and all kind of COINTELPRO types. What do you make of all that?
I look at Rocco and Barrett's more like an avant-garde parody of journalism, more or less making a subversive statement against the state of journalism these days, and it's quite hilarious. Actually, it's a highbrow bit.
Yeah, it really is, man. But then again, too, they are really doing very serious. I'm very proud of what the work they're doing. You know, for the most part. Except I think they get kind of distracted on some of these tangents with these personality clashes and stuff. But they really are doing some great work, man.
Well, some of the things that they are interested in are on the right track. I will say that.
Yeah.
But nobody seems to talk about the real elephant in the room is that, nobody knows, take for instance, that Donald Trump was the confidential informant for the FBI who flipped on Gotti and put him in prison, and him and Rudy Giuliani basically did an 80s-style hostile takeover of the mob.
You know, I do have...
Nobody knows that. Nobody puts that together, but it's true. Greg O'Lear, the journalist Greg O'Lear, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's the one that posited that originally, and it just tracks so well. And it just so happens that, well, Fred Trump was the clean operator frontman for Meyer Lansky's money laundering operation for the mafia.
Yeah, with Rudy, too, you know, when he shut down the strip clubs, he only shut down, like, the Gambino strip clubs. The Genovese and Lucchese strip clubs, they were allowed to continue unhindered whatsoever.
Yeah, so there's this new show called The Westies that just started watching the other night, and it's about the building of the Javits Center.
Yeah.
And how the Irish mob leveraged in on that through Sweeney. It goes deep, but you know, there's history that's in the books, and then there's history that's on the streets, and I'm pretty well versed in history of the latter.
Yeah, I come out of New York City myself. I have a long history, in New York City. I own a nightclub in New York, and I was, like I said, I was with the Yippies, and then I worked on the criminal defense for those cases, those Gambino case, not the Gambino cases, but the Carmine Persico and the Pizza Connection, and all those cases against Giuliani and Michael Chertoff back in those days when I was just a kid. I was 19 years old.
Remember when Giuliani had the entire NYPD surround the what is it? Some kind of headquarters. It was the courthouse. That's right. And that was like a dry run for January 6th.
Yeah.
But it was many, many years ago. It was like in the mid 90s, right before he became mayor.
Yeah, there was definitely a huge NYPD contingent up in January 6th, and also, too, I believe that the Hill cops, the Capitol Hill police, were also part of the coup, too, as well, and in my estimation, my evaluation of all that.
Well, like I said, the good illusionists have all died off, and so they're letting their masks slip a lot.
Yeah.
And it's more than obvious that they're using some of the very same playbooks that they were successful in the past with, due to entropy, is breaking down on them. And people are seeing that it's all a charade, and nothing is really as it seems. We live in a world of illusion where everything's peaches and cream. To quote Steve Miller.
Steve Miller Band or Steve Miller?
Steve Miller Band.
not the other Steve Miller.
I speak in a lot of musical mimetic terms. As a musician, it's my neurodivergence relates that way.
Because I'd hate to think you were quoting Steve Miller, the Nazi. The White House Nazi who's running the immigration policy.
Well, he's one of the perpetuators of the peaches and cream, But these people, really and truly, they're brutal people with overtly narcissistic psychopathic tendencies, and it's the hierarchy of which has railroaded their power into, controlling it all, and Donald Trump had to become the president in order to keep a lid on it, but it's bulging at the seams, and, but people want to ignore it and go, oh, it'll just go away. But no, it's omnipresent. And, this whole blackmail scheme started way back when the Catholic Church began. The confessional booth was really the number one device to leverage, public private knowledge against public, individuals. And now we have Palantir, because religion has always been nothing but a form of mind control, really. I mean, it's to keep you occupied with some non-existent realm that your riches will come to you in the next world. And, don't think about how you're poor in this world. Think about the next one. But the whole time, and Christianity really just caters to the narcissistic mind. You can continue having crappy behavior, just forgive yourself, and you can continue on, sinning, and i.e. crappy behavior.
Clay,
I think
it's interesting because back when the Philadelphia investigation, the internal Philadelphia investigation, the grand jury into the Catholic Church misbehavior there with the child sex abuse over there, it came out, that big grand jury report. Remember that? And I read the whole thing, and I was invited as a guest on a lot of shows to talk about it. And the one thing, talk about the confessional booth. Just imagine how much dirt these priests and monsignors have on the local prosecutors and the local chief of police and the mayor.
Exactly. That worked from the beginning. It always worked this way. They've just been able to, but because of the fact that we had like a ticky-tack houses, conform to society type deal where everybody conformed into whatever stereotypical group, but now that's all intermingled and everything, and the races have mixed, and individualism is a thing now, and they can't keep the control as they once could in the same manner, so they have to ramp it up. And so that's why Palantir wants all of your medical information to cross-reference with all of your traffic, just to have, some form of, hey, here's the little point of leverage that we can reach out and touch you if you get out of line.
Well, Clayton, I think they have more control now than they ever had, and especially more information control.
Yeah, and that's because we voted ourselves into this.
Yeah.
That's how all empires crumble. You vote your way into your own demise.
Now,
because people are so diverted with their attention that, so much crime can happen because everybody's looking at their phones now.
Yeah. Now, are they like that down in Mexico where you are, down in Tijuana? Is everybody staring at their phones? Is there that much high-tech manipulation?
No, actually, generally, I see people using their phones as like tools, more or less, and it's not a constant saturation because, they still work here in Mexico. There's a booming economy, actually.
Now, is there anything you miss about the United States?
Well, no, not really, because if I need to, I can just hop over the border and get whatever I want over there and bring it over.
Gotcha. And then what about this?
Groceries whatnot.
When you talk to people down there, do they think that Trump is going to leave office in November when he's, or actually January?
I don't even really talk American politics with people that live here.
Okay.
We more or less talk about the weather.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So then what do you think then? Because do you believe in just, turning my back on all this, or do you believe in active resistance?
Well, I don't hold many beliefs, but I do have a little bit of knowledge and understanding. That's up to you, man. I mean, that's not anything I can state for any surety. It all depends on what you want to see, your outcome in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I'd say, just from my experience, it's only going to get worse in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if the other capitalists, if the Democrats get in, I can't see them giving up all this power. Why would they? It's
a cult. It's a cult of narcissism, a cult of narcissism and sociopathy and psychopathology. And sitting at the very top is the megalomaniac hype man who dehumanizes people, and that's the same situation that we had in the Weimar Republic in the run-up to Hitler taking power and as Chancellor of the Reichstag.
One of the things we had talked about off the air before we started was your time in Hollywood, and I saw some of the posts you had written about how you knew Harry Dean Stanton and Johnny Depp, and you even mentioned before a couple of minutes ago Ron Jeremy. Why don't you give us a little background on that?
Well, I spent some time in Hollywood. I used to hang out at Dantana's, which is right next to the Troubadour.
Yeah.
And Harry Dean Stanton, as a harmonica player, guy's pretty dang good on the harmonica, and that's how I made friends with Harry Dean. And I was really good friends with his manager, Logan Spark. Solid Irish lad. But I also hung out with some unsavory characters. Guy by the name of Steve O'Bruno had a outfit called Clown Records, and I was at his house one night when Ron Jeremy offered me a job in porn, and I said, coming from you, that's a high compliment, Ron, but my acting endeavors run deeper than porn, and besides, I don't want the world to see my butthole. He said, fair enough. But Steve O'Bruno was the son of Steve O'Bruno Jr., who was the soundboard operator, i.e. enforcer for the Mafia in New York at Electric Lady and the Land Studios. And the Electric Lady Land flooded. It was because somebody turned off the shuttlecock during a heavy rain and it flooded the studio, and that was a coercion to bend Jimi Hendrix's crew to the Mafia's will. And so they installed Steve O'Bruno Sr. on the soundboard because he had already had a recording studio in New Jersey, right? And so they just put him on there to make sure, the Mafia got their taste, got their cut.
Now, when you met Ron Jeremy, then were you surprised to hear later on all these allegations of sexual battery?
Absolutely not. There are some ugly, brutal people out there, and I've met some of them, and it just teaches me the lesson of how not to, live my life.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on there right under your nose, you know what I mean? And right on the public's nose, and a lot of stuff is really not talked about.
Well, see, that's the nature of the narcissist, though, Ed. They will think that they're the smartest person in the room and that they can get away with doing things right out in the open because no one is none the wiser. But other people have a sensibility about them that the narcissist, it's like they live inside their own little box and they can't see past their own nose, really. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Johnny Depp, because I sent you that recording about the interview with Paul Baresi, and you seem to be familiar with some of the things he was talking about, right?
I met him briefly. He stole a bottle of wine that I had bought for Harry Dean at a party that I got invited to, and he dipped out, and so what a butthole. It was a really expensive bottle of wine too.
Yeah. Well, what about all this stuff? It seems to be that Rocco and Barrett, they're really upset about this DSSK group and their Nazi salutes. And what can you tell us about this?
Oh, that was a disinformation campaign. DSSK was a disinformation campaign.
Well, what were they? What was their purpose to begin with?
Just a bunch of people from Cult of the Dead Cow really just made their own little organization.
Right. And you were down at DEF CON all the time?
I've attended 3.
And then what is your background in that area?
What, like hacking?
Yeah. Like that whole hacking. Wait, even too, I'm new to this, but this whole hacking community, it doesn't even seem like they're doing a lot of actual hacking. That it's more like people are leaking them passwords and access and things and documents. Is that what it's more like now?
Well, now that there's artificial intelligence writing code, it's a whole new ball.
Yeah.
But pen testing and intrusion have been some areas of interest of mine.
And what kind of information can you get?
Oh, whatever information you're looking for.
Okay. Okay. And is there any way that people can avoid this kind of intrusion?
Throw away their computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cut off all access to the internet. Become a Luddite. I mean, really, in this digital age that we live in, and intrusion factors are high, especially with the fact that there's 0 days in all kinds of things, and especially with the Internet of Things, your baby cams, all of those stuff that's, portals that are open.
All right. And
people find a way into them just for, poops and giggles. Some people are like that, they'll just do things because they can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those baby cams, that's pretty simple stuff because it's RF frequencies. You can stand out in front of the house.
I was just using it as a generalized example.
Right. But now what about, I heard a guy tell me once that he could hack into OnStar, that he could turn people's cars off. He could listen to their cars. Is that possible?
Sure. I've seen it done at DEF CON in the Auto Village. Yeah. All of that stuff is vulnerable. Everything that we have in our daily lives, even down to the, refrigerators and stoves that have, motherboards on them in our smart fridges and smart stoves.
Yeah, they got so
all
much
of that
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, but now aren't a lot of these guys like they're recruited by NSA to go work for the government and become feds and work for these different agencies and or work for these big tech bros for their intelligence operations?
Well, yeah, you have to cover all the bases, and if you get people that know all of the ins and outs of all of these systems, sure, you want to put them on your side and, have them in your stable and not the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And they use blackmail as a means of leverage in a lot of these cases.
What you mean, to get people to flip and become government agents?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's clear. Yeah. Now, what about even when you hear these?
Well, that's pretty much how everything in Washington is, especially over the past 50 or 60 years or so, ever since 1947. Let's just put it that way.
You hear in the Epstein files that Epstein had his own hacker. He had a guy working for him, a hacker guy. And do you get offers like that from people come to you and trying to hire you and stuff?
Oh, he had a couple of them, and I traveled in the same circles as those guys.
You know those names? You know those people?
Oh, like Weave?
Oh, Weave was doing it. I keep hearing about Weave.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Right. Describe, who is Weave? What does he say he does, and what does he really do?
That's a really good question. He's kind of his own thing, sort of like me, but different. He's a narcissist and a sociopath, I'll say that.
Who's paying him?
Don't know, but he had a Bitcoin wallet, and you can look on the blockchain and look at all of that. So,
right. It seems to me that a lot of the people around Epstein, and a lot of people, even these Epstein reporters, these legendary Epstein experts and stuff like that, they're all deep into Bitcoin. That whole thing seems so shady to me. What do you make of all that?
Well, I mean, it was and still is to some varying degree or another, money laundering, plain and simple.
So when you hear about these people that talk about they're making these huge gains in Bitcoin, they're basically just washing money.
I mean, that was the whole intention of it in the first place.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing about crime. Crime exists, and we all know it exists, but where it's coming from, well, that's the big secret, right? And so when you continuously try to fool people and keep your charade up, keep your con up, you have to go through extraordinary lengths, ultimately, to keep the compounding nature of it from being publicly known. And that's what we're experiencing right now. We're just experiencing the throes of all of that and this containment unit that they're trying to build and contain all of the secrets and all of the stuff that's damning evidence against them. That's what they're doing right now. They're throwing all of their resources and all of yours and mine too as taxpayers at this. It's the ultimate grift.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen as much open, in-your-face, organized crime, in the White House and around the people around him. This guy Zampoli, is just his behavior his whole lifetime has just been outrageous. Partners with Epstein, trying to buy a Casablanca's elite modeling agency, involved in Bitcoin up to his ears to another guy, rape allegations. I just had a guest on my show that alleges that she was raped by this guy, and he was offering her $350,000 that would come from the White House Drone Defense Fund. Okay, that he has somehow access from the defense fund that protects the White House with drones. He has access to that money to pay off lawsuits. Rape lawsuits.
Well, shell games on an industrial scale.
Yeah. Like
what was all the warehouses and stuff that Trump adjacent companies bought up, and then once Trump got into office, the price of them skyrocketed, and the United States government purchased them to detain people, like the one up in Georgia, but in all over the place, these huge warehouses that they artificially inflated the price of and then charged the government an arm and a leg. It's blatant and obvious corruption in your face. And what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I know. It was so obvious, too, that, what's his name, Corey Lewandowski had a piece of those operations, and he wasn't kicking back money to Trump. And soon as Trump found out, man, he gets fired. And who was that other one? Whitmore? Yeah, was that name, Whitmore? The woman, he was bonking,
no, Christy Nome.
Christy Nome, right? Those two boinking each other there, And then her husband turns out to be some transvestite guy.
Subsidized flying sex palace.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Hey, a great gig if you can get it.
Yeah, I agree. It would be a nice gig, Oh boy.
Well, it's just the absolute brutality of the conquest of the white man knows no bounds. I say this as someone with mostly white heritage, Scotch-Irish, but a little bit of Creole, too, from Jennings, Louisiana.
And then what's your next phase in life? You're going to be happy just selling ribs and ice cream?
I think I could find some semblance of happiness if I could, just get a little bit of a toehold and, slingshot from there. Eventually, I'd like to produce my artwork, but first things first, you got to think small and let it grow organically. That's where I'm at right now.
Before we get too far.
And also, I don't want to wind up in a nursing home 20, 30 years from now.
No, you got to, let me tell you something, man. You got to take care of your health. You really, really do, man. It's so important. I'm 63. I was dying like 2 years ago. I had a heart thing going on. But that's all fixed. And now I'm back, I've lost 45 pounds. I'm back. I'm working out and stuff like that. I'm like 10 years younger. But
that's awesome to hear, man. Glad you're doing better.
Oh, no, yeah. If you don't have your health, man, it's so important. But before we get too far, the GoFundMe, once again, is the Great
DEF CON Ice Cream Social Initiative 2026. So if I can get these things, these 3 ice cream churns built, I can get a good start and make it to DEF CON next year. And so we can vend ice cream at different swap meets in different parts of town all through the week, and that'll give me a good running start to get my process down and do it until about the second week of October, I think. Then the weather starts to turn, and then hopefully by then I will have acquired some restaurant equipment and start dabbling with other things, other foods.
You're not looking to raise a lot of money either, man. It's like only $450 you're looking for with this GoFundMe, right?
Well, it's 400. It's capped at. It's processed at 450 minimum, but 633 is what it's set for.
So,
and I've got like maybe 3 donors, $45, and so I'm almost there. Well, I'm just kidding. I'm not almost there. I'm about 6% of the way.
I tell you, in the old days when I first started doing a show,
listen, I get it though, because times are tough right now, and everybody's struggling, and that's by intention, Yeah. So, I mean, I can cover my rent and bills, but anything above that is just, out of reach right now for me. And so, we're all struggling here, and that's the design.
Yeah, here too, man. I tell you, I can't tell you. Not an hour goes by I don't see a post on Threads or something, someone saying, "Hey, I can't make this month's rent. I'm being evicted." I try and help these people out as much as I can with the, just hooking them up with lawyers and tenants unions and stuff like that. Back when I lived in Vegas, I had so many resources to help people out, that kind of stuff. But now that I'm down here in Florida, there's just nothing, man. Where can people see your art, though? If people want to check out Clayton.
I have an Instagram. It's CSF333.
CFS 333, and that's your old.
That's CSS 333.
And you started out as a ham radio operator?
Well, yeah, I had a little portable ham radio when I was a kid, and that's what got me interested in radio in the first place.
In radio?
Right. I was a intern at 16 years old at WJIZ 96.3, Albany's #1 station for rap, hip hop, and R&B.
WJIZ.
I can put my radio voice on whenever I want, you know.
So that was WJIZ, and that was with Ron Jeremy?
No, man. That was in Albany, Georgia when I was 16. Ron Jeremy was. I didn't even know who Ron Jeremy was. I might have seen him in a porn. I might have seen him in a porn mag back then because he's been around for a while.
If the station was called Jizz, if it was called Jizz, I just figured Jeremy was involved with that. Jizz. Let me ask you a quick question, man. I was at the.
I didn't even put that together.
I know. I kind of crowbar it in there, bro. I work on these jokes ahead of time. As soon as I heard you say JIZ, man, I was working on that. But let me ask you a question. When I ran into Ron Jeremy, okay, it was at the, they call it now the AVN convention in Las Vegas. But at the time, it was at CES, and it was called the Adult Software Convention at the Sands Convention Center. And it was down in the basement down there, and they had a handwritten sign saying adult software. It wasn't all this big AVN stuff. It was like brand new, like around 2000. And I went in there, and I saw Ron Jeremy at one of the booths, working the booth. And that's where the bar was. So you had to walk through there all the way through this Caligula to get to the bar to get a drink. And then by the time you got back, your drink was empty. So I figured out a way to take this shortcut through this, between the curtains of the booths, you know. And so I would pass by Ron Jeremy, 4 times, 5 times. I used to drink quite a bit in those days. And so when he saw me that I figured out this shortcut, he says, "Hey, how you getting to the bar so fast?" Right? So we started talking to each other. That's how I met Ron Jeremy. But I had an interesting experience with him, okay? This other fellow showed up one day, and he had this woman with him, and she was on a leash, right? And the guy said to him, he goes, "Hey, are you going to go to the worship later?" And Ron Jeremy says, "Who's going to be there?" And he says, "A lot of the old Process people." Talking about the Process Church of the Final Judgment, that cult. Have you ever had any run-ins in your Hollywood days or in California? Any run-ins with these type of people? Is that a yes?
I lost you.
You didn't hear anything I said?
Lost you there for a second. I didn't hear the last part.
Did you ever have any run-ins with these type of people, the occult, Satanism, these satanic cults and stuff like that, like Ron Jeremy was discussing?
I didn't have any run-in with them, but in Austin, Texas, there was a guy, Zendik Farm, Zendik, and it was a Wolf Zendik, and I was busking and playing guitar a while there, and these guys had invited me up to their farm, and it was a weird cult. And they wound up kicking me out of there and gave me a ride. And the guy was like, "If you don't shut your mouth, I'm going to drop you off on the highway." And I go, "Okay, well, then go ahead." And he dropped me off right there, like 30 miles before Austin city limits. But I was hitchhiking back then, so I got to ride pretty quick back to town. But cults of all kinds. It all stems back to the narcissist, the narcissistic sociopath. And here's the thing: white men have great lofty ideas, but they have no way of really implementing these ideas unless they use brutal force, and that's the whole ideology behind slavery and coercion, and all of this it stems from the brutal nature of the narcissistic sociopath, i.e., and or psychopath. And a psychopath, a megalomaniac, is just a psychopath with power.
Yeah, greed and exploitation seems to be one of our greatest enemies here in our life.
Well, it's the gross domestic product of the United States.
What do you make of, once again, I met you through this hacktivist community here. What do you think? Are they doing good, or are they causing mischief?
Hacktivists?
Yeah.
I say release all of the files of all of the people who are abusive and, blackmailing and coercion and all of that stuff. Yeah, that needs to be all public knowledge. So, yeah, hacktivism has its place in bringing to light what has been kept in the dark.
Okay, hey, listen, anybody has any stuff?
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, you can send it to me, man. I'll definitely circulate that kind of stuff. I'd love that. So, Clayton, CFS 333, we only got about 5 minutes left. What do you want to leave us with?
I'm ready to sign off whenever you are.
Okay,
it's been a good conversation.
It really is, man. Listen, thank you so much. So once again, if people want to help out our buddy here, Clayton CFS 333, you can go to his Instagram, CFS 333. Now you sell the art there too,
at CHR or CHR 0_0T.
Oh, and what is the GoFundMe again? The Great
DEF CON Ice Cream Social Initiative of 2026.
Clayton, man, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It's a good conversation. Maybe it'll help some people make sense of this crazy world we're living in these days. And it's all intentionally by design to keep you confused. Yeah. So, don't be fooled.
It would be nice to see somebody step up, man. It's only $500 and help out with this this venture here with the ice cream and stuff like that. Clayton?
Yeah, electric motors and lumber is pretty cheap.
Yeah, right.
Down here.
Thank you so much, man. Good night.
All right.